right, Irish fans, it is that time. We are talking Notre Dame versus Clemson. Game is noon on Saturday, noon Eastern Time. And I believe it'll be on ABC. So, what's this going to look like for us? Clemson's 4-4 with losses to Duke, FSU, Miami, and NC State. Hey, guess what? We've beaten two of those teams. We know what those teams are like. They really struggled against NC State. They gave up some big plays for touchdowns, mostly through the air. Turnovers were ultimately what cost them that game. And I mean they gave up a pick six and a touchdown off a pick in 3 plays for 60 yards. So they're not necessarily taking great care of the football. They did the same thing against Miami. They gave up some turnovers to Duke. This is a team I think that, if we can force them to make some mistakes, and we've seen how Klubnik kind of makes some bad decisions when he's put under pressure. I think our defense can do that. We've shown tremendous ability to do that this year with Southern Cal, even against Duke, who had an excellent football team until the wheels kind of came off here over the last few weeks. Amazing opportunity for us to get in there, get some interceptions, and hopefully take away some of that home crowd noise. Klubnik also hasn't shown shown a lot of great ability to escape lately. I don't know if he's tired. I don't know if he's got an injury, but he's not showing the kind of speed that he was showing early in the season. You've got to wonder what that's about. But ultimately, I think the speed of our linebackers, the speed of our defensive line, we can do a good job of both containing him when we need to and getting him to scramble outside of the pocket and make some bad decisions, forcing the football, creating some turnovers, or causing some big sacks. So a couple of the big questions that we need to have answered before this game. Number one, is Benjamin Morrison going to be healthy? And number two, is Cam Hart going to be healthy? Well, looks like right now the answer is yes. So Coach Freeman says that they should be available this week. Morrison had a quad injury, and Cam Hart was a late scratch from the game last week. So we should expect to see them back. Our secondary proved to be very resilient without them, but they're two of our best players. They're number 6 and number 8 in total snaps on our defense, even with the missed time. So, you don't give slouches that much playing time. We know that they're not slouches. Benjamin Morrison is one of the greatest cornerbacks probably in the country this year, and we've got an amazing secondary. Getting those two guys back out there on the field, giving our secondary some ability to rest, that's going to be key in winning this football game. And ultimately, of course, we want to have a lot of offensive time of possession in order to keep our defense off the field as much as possible. That way they can stay rested, and we won't need those subs. But the subs are still critical. We need those guys to cover Bo Collins and Tyler Brown. They're 2 wide receivers who have been phenomenal wide receivers this year, making a lot of big plays, and they're scoring a lot of points. These guys will both play in the NFL. I don't know if they'll start, but they'll definitely both play in the NFL. They'll get picked up somewhere. The secondary also needs to be ready for Jake Burningstool, who is the Clemson tight end. He's actually their receiving leader for touchdowns. So he's got 3 touchdowns. So we got to pay special attention to him in the red zone. On offense, the Irish really need to pay attention to their defensive end, TJ Parker, and linebacker Wade Woodaz. Basically, TJ Parker's probably one of their better pass rushers. Their defensive line is a really good run-blocking line. They haven't given up a lot of rushing yards to most of the teams that they've played this year, with the exceptions being Duke and Miami, Duke and FSU, who both had breakout games as far as rushing yards went, both in and around 200 yards. I think Duke had 199 and FSU had 230 something. That's not been the norm for the season. If we can do that, we can absolutely win this football game. But we've got to figure out a way to keep the linebackers isolated inside and get the ball to the perimeter in order to make that happen. So part of doing that is going to be getting TJ Parker to take the inside route as much as we can, and then getting out and blocking off the outside route, not always running inside the tackles, getting to the next level. That's going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge for our offensive line, who, as we've seen, has kind of struggled. But the moves and kind of the shifts that we've made on offensive line seem to have been pretty effective here the last few weeks. So hopefully that'll hold up. Like I said, Clemson's stout defensive line overall, right? It's been the kind of defensive line that really you worry about when you go into a football game. Ohio State's got a good defensive line too. That they proved pretty effective against us. So I'd like to say, anyway, the whole point is we got to protect the quarterback. Woodaz, he's got 3 sacks and 2 interceptions, so we got to keep the ball away from him, especially on those quick decision throws. We can't be thrown over in his direction because he's got a good eye for the ball, and he'll pick us off. All right, so here's how the Irish win. This team is not going to beat us outright if we take care of the football. So as long as we don't have interceptions, as long as we don't turn over in the red zone, as long as we don't turn over on downs and take points off the board, this is a team that we can beat well into the third quarter and use time management and good clock management and things like that in order to win. I'm not saying we play for the tie. I'm not saying we don't play to absolutely stomp them, but it's a team that we can wear down, and if we continue to wear them down, we'll start to score more points. We did it last week. I think we can continue to use that model going into this week, taking better care of the football. We can't have 2 interceptions in the first quarter if we want to win this game, because otherwise it'll end up being 14-0 in no time, and then the crowd's going to be in it, and that's something that we've got to remove from the game. We cannot have the crowd in this game. We've got to get them settled down. We've got to get them seated and try to keep them from influencing the energy and the momentum on the field. We've got to win at the line of scrimmage. Our offensive line is going to be tested here as much as they've been tested this season, with maybe the exception of Ohio State. Don't be surprised if we see an overloaded box and a strong pass rush and really trying to get in there and get Sam Hartman and get him to the ground. We have got to have some, short plays, some outlets for Sam Hartman, some quick passes, some things of that nature in order to help him out. And then, of course, like I said, we've got to keep the ball away from Woodaz, who has been really good at finding the ball during those quick passing decisions, and they've been using him to kind of like spy some of those routes and keep eyeballs on the quarterback while also keeping contain on him. So let's avoid those situations as well. We also need to win the line of scrimmage on defense. So we need to win it on both sides of the ball, right? Klubnik has made a lot of mistakes under pressure this year. He's thrown a lot of interceptions while under pressure this year. He's dropped the ball a couple of times, in situations where he was pressured by the Duke defense. So we need to force those situations, and we need to make that kind of thing happen if we want to win this football game. And so on both sides, like this is one of 3 games that we have this season, 2 of which we've already lost, where the battle in the trenches is going to matter the most, right? Louisville, it mattered because they figured out overload the box and pressure us, and we couldn't figure out what to do. Ohio State showed them the way on that, not necessarily by overloading the box, but simply by showing that if enough pressure was applied in the right places and we didn't win the line of scrimmage, we didn't score a lot of points. We scored 14 points. Now, should we have scored more points against Ohio State? Well, yeah, we went for it on inside the red zone on 4th down. We should have scored 3 points there, so it should have been a tie football game. We had the momentum the whole game. All right. Yeah, back to this game, right? We have to get the rush outside of the tackle box. We are not running effectively off tackle. We're running inside the tackle box a lot. We need to find ways to get the ball out to the perimeter and continue to get the ball out to the perimeter. And I don't think we've got to do anything particularly tricky in order to make that happen, right? That's kind of where I'm getting a little confused about what we're doing. We don't need to run reverse sweeps. We don't need to run double handoffs. Just get the ball outside and get a lead blocker out there. I mean, for Pete's sakes, we got one of the best lines in the country. Run a little trap game. Get Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman is proven to be absolutely resilient. Get a little pitch in there and let Sam Hartman block somebody, which I know he wants to do. I know he wants to go in there and lay a hit on a linebacker. Get him in there and let him lower his shoulder. All right. And finally, we've got to beat their secondary. This secondary gives up a lot of yards. We need to keep running the ball and keep them guessing and keep their linebackers honest. But honestly, we can attack this secondary on short passes, and that's going to open up long passes because we're going to end up starting to lure the secondary in. As soon as we do that, we've got some speedy guys that can get it over. We can get it over the top really quick. And that's how we won a football game. That's how NC State beat them. It's kind of been a great recipe for us or for beating Clemson this year. And honestly, the secondary is just not fast enough to beat our wide receivers, who are incredibly talented. I think I saw we had somebody hit 20 miles an hour the other week, which is insane. All right, that's it for me. My score prediction for this game: 35-17 Irish. I think we bring it home. Let's get this win out the season, and hopefully get a New Year's Six Bowl. I'm not too happy about that number 15 spot. I know. All right, everybody in front of us is 7-1, but we've had a tough schedule. So some of these weaker teams with one loss that are right in front of us, I'm not too happy with that. And we definitely ought to be in front of LSU. All right, that's it for me for today. I love y'all. God bless. Much love. Keep looking up. Go Irish. Beat Clemson.